All right. This is exciting, isn't it? The birth of Jesus. It's exciting stuff. What I'm intrigued about in this whole thing is that they were right there. They were right there with us. I don't know if you've ever been to like plays and musicals and things like that. You know, we've been to some recently, and the school that my daughter goes to is they do a good job with their productions. You know, we went to one recently, and what amazes me is that everybody does things so well. You know, the actors and the actresses do a good job. What intrigues me too is between scenes, it's all dark, and the people who move the sets are all dressed in black, and they come out. And they scurry, and they move things just where they're supposed to be. They move it out, and within seconds, everything's set up new. And then the stage crew goes off again, and then the actors come back on. They think, wow, this is quite a thing. You know, they do a really good job. You know, the sets are well made. The props are really neat. Everything is in proportion. The costumes are nice and fitting. The sound system is great. And sometimes they have a band for musicals down below, and that sounds great too. Everybody pitches in. Everybody has a part to play, literally, in a school musical or in a production on Broadway or wherever you think. You know, and it intrigues me that reading the story tonight, you know, we have the angels coming down to the shepherds. You know, the angels are up here, right? They're the heavenly host. I mean, that's about as high as you can get without being God himself. So you got the heavenly host coming down. And they're talking to the shepherds. And as we know, the shepherds, weren't very highly thought of at that time. They were, you know, in the social rungs, they were pretty low. But the angels came to the shepherds, and the shepherds heard the story, and the shepherds, after they got over their fear of witnessing an angel coming to them and speaking to them, and having the host singing to them about this child who was born and to celebrate the birth of the Messiah, shepherds took to their feet and they went. And they went to where Jesus was born, and they witnessed what the angels had told them, this baby in a manger wrapped in bands of cloth, in a simple manger with simple folk and animals and whoever else around them. The shepherds told Mary and Joseph what they had heard from the angels, and then the shepherds left and went back to their flocks, changed because of that one event, of that particular moment. The angels had a part to play in this. The shepherds also had a part to play in this. And it didn't matter if they're heavenly host or in the bottom rung of the social scale. They had a role to play in all this. And Mary and Joseph, as we know, were simple people. Joseph was a carpenter. And I imagine he, scraped tooth and nail to make a scratch a living out. Obviously, he didn't have the money to pay for an inn, and so he stayed with some family members in part of their home, with the animals. Very simple. We also notice in the story that you can imagine the peace and quiet, except for maybe some moo or those kinds of things going on. And maybe Jesus was crying, maybe he wasn't, but, we have to believe he was quiet because of the song Silent Night. And as the shepherds sang in German, the first verse of Silent Night to Jesus, I imagine their world was stopped. Their focus was right there on the child. And as we come together tonight, our focus is on the child. This world, it is loud and distracting, and sometimes it gets hard to focus on anything. And yet, we're allowed into the world. We enter a world in which there was no distraction except for a couple of stray animals There are no distractions from the toils and worries of the day. There was a simple child. And as you know, of children who have been born, their focus is right on the child. The wonder, the mystery, the awe of this new baby come into the world to give us new hope and new life. Any child, and every child does that. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing to witness in the birth of our own children or children that you know. That with the birth there is new hope. And especially with this Christ child, there is especially new hope. Not only for the parents and the relatives, but for the rest of the world. The rest of creation. God pouring God's self into this baby to be among us. To live as part of who we are. To give new life and to give it abundantly. In a distracting, less full, without distractions world that is so necessary sometimes to focus on what's really, really important. And as we as people of faith, we hear and witness the story every year. You know, and we go back to our lives after the vacations are done, and we go back in January with a list of things that we'd like to do differently in the year. And we go back to our lives and we think, this part of the Christian story has the ability to change us, to give us new hope. That it's not gone with the child that's been born or with going back to work. Like the shepherds, we have been changed and we will continue to be transformed into the people of God that God hopes that we will be. We do this because of the newborn who brings hope into our world. And then we, in turn, can try to make the world a little better place also. For us and for the world, God's world. All in loving response to God's gift to us, the Christ child who has been born. Amen.